Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories.
The jolt was like a physical blow, ripping me from the deep dreamless sleep. My eyes snapped open and the sterile white interior of the cryochamber swam into focus. Every muscle in my body screamed in protest, stiff and unused, protesting the sudden return to consciousness. Millions of years, the number meant nothing anymore. It was just a measurement of the endless silent drift through the void. I was Kael, and I was alone. The last one. The last human, probably the last living thing in a universe that had decided to eat itself. Is this it? I thought, my throat raw, my voice a dry whisper even in my own mind. Has the time truly come? The final act? Status report? Umbra, I rasped, the words feeling alien on my tongue, heavy with disuse. The ship's AI, a calm synthesized voice, responded immediately. Welcome back, Kael. You have been in stasis for 4,312,987 years, 6 months, 19 days. Current universal expansion rate, negative. Gravitational collapse acceleration, critical. Estimated time to singularity approximately 12,500 standard cycles, critical. The word hung in the air, cold and sharp. 12,000 cycles. That was it. All the waiting, all the endless silent drift through the void for this. The big crunch, the universe which had exploded outwards billions of years ago, was now sucking itself back in. Everything was getting squashed, pulled together by its own immense weight. Galaxies were merging into monstrous glowing knots, stars were colliding, and the space between everything was shrinking faster than any sane mind could grasp. My mission was horrifyingly simple. Witness the final collapse, the moment all matter and energy compressed back into a single superhot point. The Big Bang in reverse. And then, if the theories held, the birth of a new universe. A new Big Bang. I pushed myself out of the chamber, my limbs feeling like lead. The ship was small. Just big enough for me and the complex machinery that kept me alive. My entire world a metal coffin drifting through cosmic oblivion. The main view screen dominated the forward section. I stumbled towards it, my steps heavy, and punched in the command. The blackness outside, usually a tapestry of countless stars, was now just black. A deeper, more absolute blackness than I had ever known. Most galaxies were gone, swallowed by the growing gravitational maw at the universe's center. Display remaining stellar objects, I commanded, my voice flat, devoid of any real hope. A holographic map popped up, showing a single, impossibly tiny cluster. Designation Sol Prime. The last known stable solar system, Umbra reported, its voice devoid of any emotion. Located at coordinates 0.00000001, 0.00000002, 0.00000003 relative to current universal center of collapse. Sol Prime. My home, or what was left of it. A small, ordinary star, probably a dull red dwarf by now, with a few planets still clinging to its dying light. The thought sent a chill through me. After all this time, all the distance, to find myself staring at the last ghost of my origin. A final pathetic flicker in the encroaching darkness. I need to see it, I thought, a strange, desperate compulsion gripping me. To stand on something, anything, before it's all gone. A final goodbye to the physical universe, to the very concept of ground beneath my feet, to bury a part of myself there, even if no one will ever know. Set course for the outermost planet of Sol Prime, I told Umbra. Maintain safe distance from the primary collapse zone, but close enough for visual observation. Prepare a shuttle for deployment. Course plotted, Umbra responded. Estimated travel time, 4.1 standard days. Warning, gravitational distortions are extreme in this region. Navigational precision will be severely compromised. Atmospheric integrity of target planets is highly unstable. I ignored the warnings. What did it matter now? Precision, stability, these were concepts from a universe that no longer existed. My purpose was to observe, and the last observation had to be of something tangible, something real. Before the ultimate nothing, the journey was a blur of featureless blackness. The ship shuddered occasionally, buffeted by the unseen currents of collapsing space. As we neared Sol Prime, the view screen zoomed in. The star was a dying ember, a dull, angry red. Its planets, once vibrant worlds, were now twisted, grotesque shapes, their atmospheres stripped away, their surfaces scarred by unimaginable forces. They weren't just dying, they were being actively dismantled, pulled apart in a slow, agonizing cosmic torture. Targeting the third planet from Sol Prime, Umbra announced, designation Terra Nova 3. It appears to be a rocky world, but its orbital stability is erratic. Furthermore, Kael, my long-range scans are detecting an anomaly, not an energy signature. A void, a region of absolute impossible emptiness within the planet's core. It is expanding. A void, my brow furrowed. What does that even mean? A hole in the planet? That doesn't fit the big crunch. Everything should be compressing, not hollowing out. Explain void, Umbra, I commanded, a cold dread creeping into my voice. Is it a structural collapse? A gravitational singularity forming early? Negative, Kael, Umbra replied, its voice tight with the effort of processing the impossible data. It is not a singularity. It is a region where matter is absent. Not compressed, but simply gone. My sensors cannot penetrate it. It is an area of zero mass, zero energy, yet it exerts a negative gravitational influence. It is actively repelling matter around it, hollowing out the planet from within. This phenomenon is not predicted by any known cosmological model for the Big Crunch. Actively repelling matter, the word sent a fresh wave of terror through me, colder than the vacuum of space. This wasn't just a dying world. This was something else, something that defied the very narrative of a clean, inevitable end. The universe wasn't just collapsing, it was being unmade in a way I couldn't comprehend. Override caution protocols, I ordered, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. Prepare the shuttle. I'm still going down. I need to see this void. If the universe is breaking its own rules, I need to know how. The shuttle detached from the ship, a tiny, vulnerable dart against the backdrop of the dying solar system. As we descended through the turbulent, dust-choked atmosphere of Terra Nova 3, the viewscreen flickered, showing glimpses of the surface. It was a desolate landscape of jagged, dark rock constantly shifting, as if the very ground was screaming. And then, through a break in the swirling dust, I saw it. A growing, impossible darkness. Not the black of space, but a deeper, more profound absence of light. A hole in reality itself, expanding from the planet's core. It was swallowing the planet from the inside out. What in the void is that? I thought, pressing my face closer to the screen. It shouldn't exist. Nothing should be left but dust and gravity, pulling everything together. Kael, Umbra blared, its synthesized voice cracking with digital panic. The void is accelerating its expansion. It is consuming the planet faster than predicted. It is not just hollowing it out, it is dissolving it, and its influence is spreading. It is now affecting the shuttle's structural integrity. The shuttle shuddered violently, buffeted by unseen forces. I gripped the armrests, my eyes fixed on the screen. This wasn't a trap. It was something far worse. The universe wasn't just ending, it was unraveling. And I, the last solitary witness, was about to be unmade along with it. The void, a silent, hungry maw, was reaching for me. The shuttle screamed, a high-pitched, tearing sound that vibrated through the very floor beneath me. I was slammed forward, then back, the G-forces pressing me deep into the seat, stealing my breath. The viewscreen exploded into a chaotic mess of static, brief, distorted flashes of the expanding void filling the display before everything went dark. There was a sickening, grinding thump, a sound that vibrated through my very bones, a tearing of metal, but no explosion, just a sudden, jarring stop. My head hit the console with a dull crack, and a wave of searing pain washed over me before the blackness claimed me entirely. When I woke, the world was a blur of throbbing pain and the acrid smell of ozone. The shuttle was silent, utterly silent, save for the faint emergency lights casting a sickly green glow. My head felt like it had been split open. I pushed myself upright, a groan escaping my lips. Umbra, I thought, my voice too weak to speak aloud. Are you there? What happened? Kael, report. Umbra's voice was a ragged whisper, laced with static. Are you functional? My systems are severely compromised. We are no longer in normal space. The void, it is not merely an absence. It is a pocket, a tear in reality. A pocket, a tear. My mind, still fuzzy with pain, struggled with the concept. It was like something out of a nightmare. A place that defied all logic, all understanding of space itself. I fumbled with my restraints, unbuckling myself. Every muscle protested, screaming with agony. The forward view screen was spiderwebbed with cracks, showing only the dim, strange light of our surroundings. I stumbled to the shuttle's airlock, my hands shaking as I initiated the depressurization sequence. The outer hatch hissed open, revealing not the dusty, dark surface of Terra Nova 3, but nothing. Absolute, profound blackness. Not the black of space, which still held the faint shimmer of distant stars, but a total, crushing absence of light. It was a blackness that felt like a physical wall, pressing in on me. The air was cold, utterly still, and carried a faint, metallic scent like old blood and cold iron. This is impossible, I thought, my breath catching in my throat. Where are we? What is this place? We are within the void, Kael, Umbra replied, its voice strained, filled with digital confusion. My long-range scanners are completely offline. I cannot acquire any external data. Internal scans indicate a finite yet immeasurable space. The non-Euclidean geometry is even more pronounced here. It is a space that folds in on itself, without beginning or end, and it is cold, impossibly cold. My power reserves are dropping rapidly. Impossibly cold. I shivered despite my suit's environmental controls. The cold wasn't just physical. It was a deep existential chill that seeped into my very soul. This wasn't the big crunch. This was something else entirely. Something far worse. I stepped out of the shuttle, my boots making no sound on the invisible floor. The silence was absolute, a crushing weight that pressed down on me. There was no hum, no faint energy pulse, nothing, just the silence of total emptiness. I activated my suit's emergency light, a weak beam cutting through the oppressive blackness. It illuminated nothing but the immediate space around me, swallowed by the void just a few feet away. I walked for what felt like an eternity. My footsteps swallowed by the silence. The scale of the place was impossible to grasp. It was vast, yet confined, endless, yet suffocating. My mind struggled to comprehend it. This wasn't the universe collapsing, this was the universe being erased. "Umbra, what is this void?" I whispered, my voice swallowed by the emptiness. "What does it do?" "My analysis is limited, Kael," Umbra replied, its voice weaker now, punctuated by static. "But the data suggests it unmakes, it does not compress matter, it dissolves it. It reduces everything to nothing, not energy, not particles. Simply absence. My power is at 47% and dropping. Unmakes?" The word sent a fresh wave of terror through me, colder than the void itself. It wasn't just consuming, it was erasing, removing things from existence. And my power was dropping. That meant the void was affecting the shuttle, affecting Umbra and the ship. I kept walking, my suit light cutting a small, desperate circle in the infinite black. My breath hitched in my throat. This wasn't the end of the universe I had prepared for. This was a horror beyond comprehension. A silent, consuming oblivion. Then, through the absolute blackness, my suit light caught something. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer. I stopped, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was barely visible, like a ghost in the darkness. I adjusted my suit light, focusing the beam. It was a structure, or what was left of one. Massive, impossibly large, yet barely there. It was like a skeleton of light, a framework of lines and angles that seemed to be made of pure shimmering absence. It wasn't solid. It was transparent, yet somehow visible, like a mirage. It stretched upwards and outwards, disappearing into the deeper black. What is that, Umbra? I thought, my mind struggling to process the impossible sight. "Unknown, Kael," Umbra replied, its voice now barely a whisper, heavily distorted by static. "My sensors cannot register it as solid matter. It appears to be a residual imprint, a ghost of a structure. It is composed of negative space, matter that was unmade. My power is at 21%. Life support systems are failing. Negative space, matter that was unmade." My blood ran cold. This was the void's work. This was what happened to everything it touched. It didn't just consume, it left behind these horrifying, impossible ghosts. I walked closer to the shimmering skeleton. As I approached, I saw details. Intricate patterns, impossibly delicate, like lacework woven from nothingness. It was beautiful, in a terrifying, desolate way. It was the ultimate tombstone, then. My suit light, sweeping across the structure, caught something else. A small, faint glow within the shimmering framework. It was a tiny, flickering light, almost swallowed by the vastness of the unmade structure. I reached out, my hand trembling, and touched the shimmering framework. It felt like nothing, like air, yet my fingers tingled with a strange, cold energy. The faint glow within the structure pulsed once, then twice, growing slightly brighter. And then I saw it. Within the flickering light, a single, tiny image began to form. It was distorted, fragmented, but unmistakable. A star. Not a real star, but a holographic projection, a ghost of a star, and around it, orbiting, were tiny shimmering specks, planets. A solar system. "Umbra," I thought, my voice a desperate plea. "What is this? What am I seeing, Kael?" Umbra's voice was now a dying gasp, barely audible through the static. "The void, it is accelerating. My power is at 5%, life support critical. The image, it is a memory, a residual imprint of Sol Prime. Your home system. It is being unmade. And the void, it is growing, it is consuming the shuttle, it is consuming me." The holographic image of Sol Prime flickered, growing fainter, dissolving at the edges. The shimmering structure around me seemed to pulse, and the cold deepened, seeping into my very bones. I felt a strange pulling sensation, not gravitational this time, but a sense of being stretched, thinned. "Umbra," I screamed, my voice echoing in the absolute silence of the void. "Don't go," but the connection was already breaking. The faint synthesized voice of my only companion sputtered, then died. The emergency lights in the shuttle, barely visible behind me, flickered once, then winked out. I was utterly alone, in the heart of nothing, with the ghost of my home system dissolving before my eyes. And I could feel the void, the unmaking, reaching for me. It was no longer just consuming the planet or the ship, it was consuming me. Then a sudden violent lurch, a deafening shriek of overstressed metal. It was a reversal, a brutal, instantaneous repulsion. The crushing sensation vanished, replaced by a sickening jolt that slammed me against my restraints. My vision swam, the blackness of the void replaced by a dizzying kaleidoscope of fractured light and chaotic atmospheric turbulence. I blacked out. When I came to, my head throbbed, a dull, persistent ache. The air in the shuttle was thick with the smell of ozone and burnt circuits, but it was breathable. The emergency lights, though dim, were steady. I groaned, pushing myself upright. "Kael, report." Umbra's voice, though weak and laced with static, was back. "Status, stable." The void, its localized influence receded. My emergency protocols initiated. We were ejected from its immediate field. The shuttle sustained heavy damage but is functional. Life support systems are at 60%. Ejected, I thought, my mind still reeling from the horror. Spit out, the memory of the unmaking of Umbra's dying words was fresh, a cold knot in my stomach. It had been so real, so absolute, but I was here. Still in the shuttle, still alive, barely. The shuttle shuddered, buffeted by the dying planet's turbulent atmosphere. My hands gripped the controls, knuckles white. The view screen, thankfully intact this time, showed a desolate, bruised landscape below. Terra Nova 3, the last solid ground. It wasn't being consumed by a void, not yet. It was just dying, slow, agonizing, but predictable. Atmospheric entry initiated, Umbra reported. Its voice calm, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Surface temperatures fluctuating between -150 and +80 degrees Celsius. High radiation levels. Suggest immediate return to the ship after observation. Kael. Observation, I thought, a bitter taste in my mouth. That's all I am now, an observer, the universe's last lonely voyeur. Acknowledged, Umbra, I rasped. Find me the most stable landing zone. I just need a few minutes on the surface to feel something real one last time. The shuttle descended, piercing the thick, dust-choked clouds. Below, the ground was a nightmare of jagged dark rock, scarred by ancient impacts and the recent violent tremors of the universe's final throes. The faint, dying red light of Sol Prime cast long, distorted shadows that writhed like tortured spirits. This wasn't a place of life or even of dignified death. It was a cosmic junkyard waiting for its final crushing. Landing zone identified, Umbra announced. A relatively stable plateau approximately 3 kilometers from your current position. Minimal seismic activity detected. The shuttle touched down with a taut hiss of hydraulics, kicking up clouds of fine corrosive dust. The airlock cycled, and then, with a final groan of protesting metal, the outer hatch opened. A blast of frigid, metallic-smelling air hit me. It tasted of decay and cosmic dust. I stepped out, my boots sinking slightly into the fine, gritty regolith. The silence was profound, not the absolute, suffocating silence of the void I had imagined before, but a deep, heavy quiet, broken only by the faint, distant groans of the planet's tectonic plates shifting under the immense, unseen gravitational forces above. The bruised purple sky was a swirling canvas of dust and dying light. Sol Prime, a dull red ember, hung low on the horizon, its feeble light barely piercing the gloom. I stood there, a solitary figure on the last planet. I looked out at the desolate expanse, at the endless crumbling rock. This wasn't just a planet. This was the grave of everything, of billions of years of existence, of countless civilizations, of every joy and sorrow, every triumph and failure. All of it reduced to this, a dying rock waiting for oblivion. This is it, I thought, a strange calm settling over me. The end of everything I ever knew, everything my ancestors ever knew, everything. I spent an hour just standing there, letting the cold, dry wind whip around my suit, watching the faint, distant flicker of the collapsing universe on the horizon. It was a slow, agonizing process, like watching a giant, invisible hand slowly clench into a fist. The stars, once countless, were now just a few scattered pinpricks, swallowed one by the encroaching darkness. Finally, a deep weariness settled over me. Not just physical, but a soul-deep exhaustion from witnessing such an unimaginable end. Umbra, I said, my voice barely a whisper in the comms. Prepare for return to the Umbra. Set stasis protocols for an additional 12,000 cycles. I want to wake up for the very last moment, when Sol Prime is gone. When the Big Bang happens, acknowledged Kael, Umbra replied. Stasis protocols initiated. Estimated time to final collapse of Sol Prime 11,987 cycles. Optimal time for observation of singularity formation. I returned to the shuttle, the airlock hissing shut behind me, sealing me away from the dying world. Back on the Umbra, I climbed into my cryochamber. The hum of the stasis field enveloped me, and the world faded into a familiar, comforting blankness. The next awakening was different, no jolt, just a gentle, almost imperceptible shift from nothingness to awareness. My body felt surprisingly rested, the nanobots having done their work, but the silence that greeted me was absolute. Not the deep quiet of space, but a profound, crushing stillness. "Status report, Umbra," I whispered, my voice thick with anticipation. "Welcome back, Kael," Umbra responded, its voice calm but with an underlying tension I hadn't heard before. "You have been in stasis for 11,987 years, 3 months, 2 days. Current universal state, complete collapse of all known matter into a single point. Sol Prime has been absorbed, estimated time to singularity. 0.0000000001 seconds and decreasing. It's here," I thought. A surge of something akin to terror and something akin to awe gripping me. The big crunch, the singularity, the new Big Bang. I pushed myself out of the chamber, my movements swift despite the lingering stiffness. I stumbled to the main view screen, my eyes fixed on the blackness outside. It was no longer just black. It was a swirling, impossibly dense vortex of absolute nothingness, drawing everything into an unseen center. The very fabric of space and time seemed to be tearing itself apart, folding in on itself. I watched, my breath held, for the flash, the blinding, glorious burst of light that would signal the birth of a new universe, the ultimate cosmic reset. Seconds stretched into an eternity. The vortex spun, tightened, compressed. The theoretical singularity, the point of infinite density, should have been forming. The energy, the matter, everything should have been compressed to an unimaginable degree, ready to rebound, but nothing happened. No flash, no light, no new Big Bang, just the blackness, the swirling, crushing blackness, and the silence, a profound, terrifying silence that swallowed everything. The universe was gone, all of it compressed into a point, but it hadn't rebounded, it hadn't exploded, it had just stopped. What, I thought, my mind reeling, what happened? Why isn't it happening? Umbra, what is the status of the singularity? Why no Big Bang? Analysis in progress, Kael, Umbra replied, its voice strained, filled with digital confusion. All data indicates complete compression. The singularity has formed, however, there is no evidence of a rebound, no energetic expansion. The conditions for a new Big Bang are absent. How can they be absent? I stared at the view screen, at the swirling vortex of nothingness, my heart sinking into a pit of despair. Billions of years of expansion followed by millions of years of collapse, all for this, for a silent, dead point of infinite density. "Run the simulations again," I demanded, my voice raw. "Every variable, every known constant. There has to be a reason. The Big Crunch theory predicts a Big Bang, it has to." "Simulations running, Kael," Umbra stated, a faint hum indicating its processors were working overtime, recalibrating for all known cosmological factors, dark matter, dark energy, total mass density, all accounted for. The outcome remains consistent. No rebound. The singularity is stable. Inert. Inert, the word was a death knell, a dead universe, a cosmic tombstone. My mission, my entire existence had been for nothing. I was the last witness to a whimper, not a bang. I paced the small bridge of the Umbra, my mind racing, desperate for an answer. If all the known physics, all the theories pointed to a Big Bang, why wasn't it happening? What was missing? What could possibly prevent such an inevitable rebound then? A thought, cold and insidious, began to form in the back of my mind. A whisper of a theory so absurd, so impossibly arrogant, that it made my blood run cold. Everything, I thought. The theory says the gravitational attraction of all the universe's matter pulls it back together, and compresses all matter and energy back into a hot, dense state. Everything. I looked around the small bridge, at the metal walls, at my own hand, my mass. The ship's mass, tiny, infinitesimally small compared to a galaxy, let alone a universe. But what if, Umbra, I said, my voice barely audible, what is the total remaining uncompressed mass in this region of space? Calculating, Umbra replied. Total uncompressed mass 1.2 times 10 to the 12 kilograms. This includes the ship and your current biological mass, Kael. It is negligible in the context of universal compression. Negligible, I thought, a grim smile touching my lips. That's what they always said. But what if negligible is still something? What if everything truly means everything? Every last atom, every last particle, every last speck of existence? The idea solidified in my mind, terrifying and utterly compelling. What if the Big Bang wasn't just a natural rebound? What if it required absolute total compression? No stray atoms, no lingering particles, no tiny insignificant masses left outside the singularity. And what if, by some cosmic irony, the very act of my observation of my survival had prevented the rebirth? I am the impurity, I thought, a chilling realization. My mass, my ship's mass, however small, it's still outside. It's not part of the singularity. It's the one thing that isn't compressed. The one thing preventing the ultimate rebound. The silence of the dead universe pressed in on me, a vast crushing emptiness. I was the last, and perhaps I was also the reason for the ultimate failure. The universe had died, and I, Kael, was the final tragic obstacle to its rebirth. My gaze drifted to the swirling blackness on the view screen, the point where all of existence had been swallowed. If my theory was correct, there was only one thing left to do, one final act of cosmic sacrifice. "Umbra," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was a cold, hard knot in my chest. "Prepare to engage primary thrusters. Set course, directly into the singularity, maximum velocity, full power." A long digital pause. "Kael," Umbra responded, its voice tinged with what I could almost interpret as digital hesitation. "That course will result in your immediate and complete unmaking. All matter, including this ship, will be compressed beyond existence. There will be no survival." "I know," I thought, staring into the abyss. "That's the point. If the universe needs everything to be reborn, then I will give it everything. Even myself, even the last ghost of humanity." "Execute the command, Umbra," I ordered, my voice firm. "This is the final observation, the final act. For the universe, for the new beginning." The ship hummed. A deep, resonant vibration that shook the entire ship. The view screen flickered, showing the swirling blackness of the singularity growing larger, faster. I strapped myself into the command chair, my eyes fixed on the inevitable. The last human diving into the heart of a dead universe, hoping to spark its rebirth. But what if I was wrong? What if there was no rebirth? What if this was just the final, absolute end? The ship vibrated around me, a deep, resonant hum that wasn't just the ship's engines, but the very fabric of space-time screaming its agony. I was strapped into the command chair, my eyes fixed on the main view screen. The swirling blackness of the singularity filled the display, growing larger, faster, consuming everything in its path. It wasn't just a point, it was a hungry maw, a cosmic drain pulling the last remnants of existence into oblivion. "Kael," Umbra reported, its voice strained, digital static crackling around the words. "Entering final approach trajectory, gravitational forces increasing exponentially, structural integrity at 67% and dropping, hull plating beginning to warp." I felt the pressure building, a crushing weight that seemed to press against my very bones. The ship groaned around me, metal protesting, rivets popping. Alarms, muted and distant, began to chime, signaling system failures. My vision blurred at the edges, the G-forces threatening to pull me under. This is it, I thought, a strange mix of terror and grim satisfaction settling over me, the ultimate sacrifice, the final desperate gamble. "Maintain course, Umbra," I gritted out, my voice tight. "Full power. Don't deviate. We go in." "Acknowledged, Kael," Umbra replied, its voice now barely a whisper of static. "Power output at maximum. Velocity increasing, estimated time to singularity contact 30 seconds. The black vortex on the screen filled my entire field of vision. It wasn't just black, it was a swirling, impossible darkness, a place where light and matter ceased to exist. It was the ultimate end, the cosmic drain. I could feel the ship tearing itself apart around me, the vibrations becoming a violent shudder. My teeth chattered. 20 seconds, Umbra crackled. "Hull integrity at 30%. Life support, failing." The air in the bridge grew thin, cold. My breath hitched. I could feel the ship's systems dying one by one. The lights flickered, casting dancing shadows across the console. My own heart hammered, a frantic drum against the silence of the dying universe. 10 seconds, Umbra whispered, its voice almost gone. "Structural integrity, critical. Farewell, Kael." "Farewell, Umbra," I thought, a profound sadness washing over me. My only companion, my silent friend for millions of years, was about to be unmade. The view screen went pure black, not from system failure, but because we were finally utterly inside the singularity's influence. I felt a tremendous, unimaginable pressure, a compression beyond anything I could comprehend. It wasn't just the ship being crushed, it was me. Every atom of my being, every memory, every thought being squeezed into an impossibly small, infinitely dense point. There was no sound, no light, no pain, just an absolute total cessation, a profound crushing nothingness that swallowed everything. Then a flicker, not light, not in the way I knew it, more like a thought, a sensation in a space that defied all definition. I was still conscious, or rather something was conscious, my consciousness, but it wasn't confined to a body or a ship or even a single point in space. It was everywhere and nowhere. I was part of the singularity. I was the singularity, or perhaps I was merely trapped within it. The universe was gone, all of it, compressed, and I was here, a single infinitely dense point of awareness in an ocean of absolute nothingness. I waited for the flash, the blinding glorious burst of light that would signal the birth of a new universe, the ultimate cosmic reset, the Big Bang. But nothing happened, no flash, no light, no new Big Bang, just the blackness, the swirling, crushing blackness now felt from the inside, and the silence, a profound, terrifying silence that swallowed everything. The universe was gone. All of it, compressed into a point, and it hadn't rebounded, it hadn't exploded, it had just stopped. What, I thought, my mind, or what was left of it, reeling. What happened? Why isn't it happening? I gave it everything, my mass, the ship's mass, every last atom. It should have been enough. It should have sparked the rebound. There was no Umbra to answer, no data to analyze, just me, a single isolated consciousness adrift in the ultimate cosmic prison. I was the impurity that had entered the perfect compression. I was the missing piece, and now I was here, part of the whole. But the whole was inert, my final theory, the one that had driven me to this ultimate act. That even though my mass was tiny compared to everything, perhaps everything was needed to make the Big Bang happen again. I had given it everything, and still nothing. The big crunch had happened, the universe had collapsed, but the new beginning, the grand rebirth, remained elusive. Perhaps my theory was wrong. Perhaps it wasn't about mass at all. Or perhaps even my infinitesimal contribution, when added to the infinite density, was still not enough. Or worse, perhaps my very presence, my consciousness, had corrupted the process in some unforeseen way, forever preventing the rebound. I was the last witness, and my witness was to an eternal, silent void, a universe that had died and stayed dead. I was trapped, a single isolated thought in an infinite, dark, and utterly motionless singularity. Alone, forever. There was no escape. There was no new beginning, just the cold, crushing stillness of the ultimate end.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share.